Today I want to talk about number 19 Oklahoma versus Kansas. No, it's coming up after the bumper.
Don't be cornering me. Hold up. Time. You gotta help me with that corner shit.
What's up, kinfolk? It's RJ Young. I am not on the step mill. Consider hitting the like and subscribe button because I upload a video every single day. It's always college football related, sports related. We have a good time. Today, I want to preview, such as it were, number 19 Oklahoma versus Kansas. And you guys ever wonder what it would look like for Oklahoma to play routes on air? To play against wind? Because I feel like that's the best metaphor for how this game is going to go when Oklahoma plays Kansas at 2:30 in the afternoon on Saturday. It's probably not going to be a very well-watched game outside the state of Oklahoma because the world's largest cocktail party, number 4 Georgia versus a top 10 Florida, is also going to be on at the same time. But for Oklahoma, what this is a steady march through November because in the Lincoln Riley era, the Sooners are undefeated in what they call Championship November. And that's really what I think is the story here because it certainly ain't Puka because he ain't there. And ain't less because they ain't good. And I made the point on Twitter that Ohio State is a 37-point favorite against Rutgers this weekend, and Oklahoma is a 37-point favorite against Kansas this weekend, and both will cover. To which Joel Klatt got into my mentions and said, yes, but Ohio State has the tougher task. To which I have no take except, yeah, we know. We know how bad Kansas is. People are like, Kansas beat Rutgers. Not this Rutgers. And the reason that we're talking about this Rutgers in that way is because of the way that they bowed up against Michigan State. Hello, the same Michigan State that bowed up against a number 13 Michigan in the Big House, such as it is, in the Ghost Big House, in the most cavernous college football stadium in America. Ohio State also needs the style points, right? Ohio State right now is trying to solidify its position as a top 4 college football playoff team and make a case to be the number 1 team because usually the way that this works is the 1 versus 4 matchup is a barn burner. See, in 2019, LSU versus Oklahoma. It's an easier matchup for you to get to the national championship. You don't really want to be the 2 or the 3 seed because that's going to be much more of a ball game. So if you can get into that number 1 spot by hanging 100 on Rutgers, why not? Meanwhile, Oklahoma is not just going to try to begin its march through the month of November without loss. It's also trying to get back to the Big 12 championship game, which is on the table. We've got 1 loss Iowa State in there. We've got a 4-2 Texas team. Like, we've got teams that still have to play each other that are going to catch another loss that make it possible for Oklahoma to get there with 2 losses in the Big 12 because the Big 12 is such trash this year. Which means that even in a bad year for Oklahoma, everybody else is still bad. And as I've said before about Oklahoma being the Big 12 champ and being in the college football playoff, being the Big 12 champ, it's like being All-State in Rhode Island. It don't mean a whole hell of a lot because you can win this league and you can get to the playoff and get handed your head by LSU 63-28. And if you can get beat down the way that Oklahoma got beat down in the Peach Bowl by LSU and be the Big 12 champ, what does it actually mean to be the Big 12 champ? Especially in a year where 3 Sun Belt teams showed up to Big 12 opponents and handed them their head. Arkansas State, who ain't that good, beat Kansas State. Louisiana Lafayette, who might be that good, handed Iowa State its head. And Coastal Carolina beat Kansas so badly that the Coastal Carolina kids started yelling that they can't play with us. And that actually ends up being true as the Chanticleers dropped 51 on Georgia State's skull and gave up zilch over the weekend and are now a top 15 team. Which, is fun because that means that Coastal Carolina ranks ahead of Oklahoma. Which, quite honestly, if we're doing with the transitive wins thing, is as it should be. So we live in a world where Oklahoma could be the Big 12 champ and probably still not be ranked as highly as Coastal Carolina, in part because they beat the worst Big 12 opponent that they could find, and a team that Oklahoma might not beat as badly as it should because, well, you want to get other players opportunities to play. And that's going to bring us back to this whole what-if situation of if Ronnie Perkins was eligible, if Ramondre Stevenson was eligible, which if Trajan Bridges was eligible, would Oklahoma be in this position right now? Would they be a two-loss team? Who the hell knows? And quite frankly, I don't particularly care. I mean, I made that segment because I thought it was worth discussing, but the more that I thought about it, you should beat Kansas State without Ramondre Stevenson and without Ronnie Perkins. You should beat Iowa State without Ramondre Stevenson and without Ronnie Perkins. Do you know why you should do both of those things? Because you beat Texas. And Texas is more talented than Oklahoma according to the composite. Like when we're doing the rankings thing. And you know we value the rankings thing on this show. Texas is more talented than everybody in this conference. And Oklahoma beat them. So you can't actually say with a straight face that Oklahoma would be undefeated if they had Ramondre Stevenson or Trajan Bridges or Ronnie Perkins. But you certainly can say they should not have lost to Kansas State and Iowa State regardless because of the results that have happened since then. Whether or not the team was ready to play, we can have that discussion. Whether or not there are teams that are coming on late, really good discussion. As we're going into November, and I think teams are finding their stride. But this team, I don't think was going to be that good to begin with. I certainly don't think they were going to go undefeated for the entire season because no Oklahoma team has done that for 20 years. But I don't think that it's fair to say that just because Oklahoma dropped 62 on Texas Tech that they would be undefeated if that was not the case. That Ronnie Perkins and Ramondre Stevenson had played the whole time because they looked so good because they were fresh against Texas Tech, but we don't actually want to have that side of the conversation. We just want to talk about how good Oklahoma might or might not be, which I don't think is at all fair to who the team has been and how they have matured. All right, that's it for me. Doses.